had to apologize to my son the other day. I had wrongly accused him of something and I had gotten really angry. Then I realized I made a mistake, right? But the funny thing was, I knew I should apologize because, I knew I was wrong. But then I was fighting against myself. I really didn't want to.
Why? Why do you want to apologize?
I think there were a few factors at play, right? I mean, the most obvious of which was that, I didn't want to admit to a child, my child, that I was wrong. I did apologize in the end. Let's be clear. I did apologize to him in the end, and it was a really healing experience. But before I actually did it, it was just interesting to think about the struggles that I had because I really didn't want to.
Well, sometimes being held accountable can feel like an accusation when we're not ready to take ownership of the hurt or harm we caused others, right? It's all about whether we're ready. And you weren't ready for some reason.
Obviously, I wasn't. But yet, at the same time, because it is my son, I'm not ready, but I will make myself ready because it's my son. I want to have a relationship with him.
Right.
But with others, I do think, and like upon reflection, right, with other people, I think for sometimes I rather just walk away
Mm,
and go, see ya. But before I walk away, let's talk about this podcast. Life in the Grey is a Mums at the Table podcast where we try to understand what makes us tick and how it impacts our lives and relationships. The topics we pick are things Faith and I often grapple with, trying to figure out the right or the wrong way to behave. And today we're talking about apologies and accountability. And I guess, as I was saying, one of the struggles that I have with this is how sometimes when I apologize because of a disagreement, there's also the added confusion or the potential that I'm accepting that person's version of truth. Like, okay, if I apologize, it means they're right and I'm wrong. And I guess the
mm,
struggle is how do you not compromise your truth and thinking about
yeah.
what are you actually giving up when you say, I'm sorry?
Look, it's such a hard place to be, right? Because it's holding on to your truth an act of personal integrity, or is it an unwillingness to be wrong or self critical, right? Where are you falling in right now? Which part of the spectrum are you at?
Well, not just which part of the spectrum, right? There's that, definitely there's that. And then it's also the whole like, wow, where do you draw the line between being assertive and standing your ground, right? Versus taking responsibility of your actions when you're apologizing and at least even for just the bits that you're responsible for. But yeah, where do you draw the line?
Yeah. I think that's why it gets so complicated for those of us who've been through manipulative or emotionally unsafe environments. I mean, there is a learned pattern of over apologizing, right? And the boundaries of assertiveness versus accountability, that can get very blurred because when you've been taught that everything is your fault, it warps your ability to see clearly.
Oh, that's
Like,
bad.
yeah, and sometimes I fight back against being held accountable, not because it's untrue, but because I've internalized this fear that every apology is a surrender of myself, right? And then I don't know, is this a moment where I am taking accountability? Or is this a moment where once again I'm taking the blame because I was taught that yes, others may have feelings and they may own their feelings, but I'm the one that's responsible for causing or preventing them, right?
You have a lot of power, don't you?
Oh,
But
look, you know, right? It's really ironic because it's you hear it as I have a lot of power, but I feel so powerless because it feels like everything is your fault and you have to fix it.
yeah, it's funny how there's like two sides of the coins, because yeah, I'm seeing like, wow, you're not that. I mean, I love you, but you're not that great. But yeah, I mean, I can see why, because if that's how you grew up, and that's the kind of impression that you've been given, obviously you will see the other side. And I guess it kind of is a bit like what we women do. I mean, yes, there is the childhood and the family environment, but even gender wise, right? For women, we're always saying, I'm sorry, can I sit here? Oh, sorry, just one more question. Sorry, can I point out?
Oh,
Sorry, but actually, I think you misunderstood. That
do not get
it's
me
interesting.
started.
Wow, don't get a lot of people started, because there are multiple studies and news articles that are written about this terrible trait that we women have, right? Apologizing for things we don't really need to. We should actually have a count how many times we say sorry to each other in our podcast. Anyway, subconsciously, I feel like we are telling ourselves we're at fault, and at the same time, because of that, it destroys our confidence and our very existence as well. It's like,
Well, I
sorry, I
can't.
exist.
Well, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, I take up space.
But
Sorry,
that's
what
the
were you
thing,
saying?
right? That's the thing. It's the messaging. I can't speak for all. Sorry, I can't speak for all women. But for me, it's the messaging that is, whether it's cultural, historical, family, whatever. But the messaging that I was brought up with is that women need to speak softer. We need to behave softer. We just need to exist softer. And even while at this moment, this space in my life where I'm unlearning all of that, the truth is sometimes, and I don't like saying this, but playing up to the stereotype does get me faster and easier
Oh,
solutions, right?
I will agree with you. Sometimes you have to be the girly girl to the manly man. And it's like, oh,
To
let's
get
help
things
you,
done.
you poor little lady.
Yeah, yeah, to get things done. But I worry if I'm like, like, am I selling my soul? Okay, I worry if the outcome is worth the price, because I recognize in myself that I do have a misguided and deeply entrenched belief that influence equals control. It, it,
Sorry,
I
wait. Sorry.
we just we need to
Um,
make a tally of how many times we apologize for it to each other.
but what do you mean by influence equals control? Because, like, so you're influencing them into behaving the way that you want, like, you're influencing them into helping you. So you control them. Isn't that what you want?
Okay, it sounds like I've got a lot of power, right? Okay,
Well,
okay.
once again, I'm
Let's
coming
see what I
from.
can. Let's unpack this. Let's unpack this. Okay, so we all have a part to play in communicating, right? We all have
Yes.
our parts to play.
Yep.
That's what you and I, we are aligned on. And so if I have a part to play, right, and the part that I play, whether it's intentional or not, influenced you to think badly of me, then there must also be other parts, right? Other actions, other behaviors, other words that I can say, I can play, behaviors that are within my control, right? That can influence you to think better of me. So, in this very distorted equation, since I have some control over how you feel about me, therefore that influence is equal to control. Therefore, if I have control, the responsibility is now mine to find out what that part is that I played and then fix it. The responsibility
Mm,
becomes all on me to find out what is that part, because now I have to control and then fix it.
ah, a different kind of control. Okay, got it. But
Yeah.
then, okay, I get it, but I don't get it. Okay, because because you
Trust me, this
know
is where I am also. I get it and I don't get it also.
because it's interesting, because you know you're saying you have a part, right? And I that's true. We all have a part to play. But having a part is not the same as having the role. And no, I'm saying having the role, not having a role. So you're not.
So I'm
It's
having
not
a role, but not the role.
correct. You're not. You're not it. You're not Tom Cruise. Um, is that, so what is this like having a part, right? Like my values are such that I believe we do need to be kind to others. We should treat others that we would like to be treated. So that's having a part. But that doesn't mean that if I was cold and difficult, it's completely my fault because I don't have the full, complete role. So I mean, if you don't like it, yes, I might have done something wrong. But it could equally be the same that you could be interpreting something that I've done wrongly. So we both need to consider our actions. It's not
Yeah.
just me.
I'm not saying it makes sense. That's why I say it's a really weird, distorted equation. Like, I get it, and then I also don't get it because I don't get why my brain makes that leap sometimes, right? And I'm still trying to find that I'm still trying to find that solution to like make that clean cut. I don't know. Yeah.
But thinking about what I was about the whole interpretation thing, right? It's also interesting because I'm really drawing it a bit further. So in the context of apologizing, right? When you say you're sorry, from your view, you're saying that I'm taking responsibility or even that I'm taking the blame. So I say I'm sorry, I'm responsible, I'm taking the blame. But then how you interpret my apology could also be the opposite of what I mean when I say I'm sorry.
And it could also be that you say sorry, you really mean it, and the other person is just not ready to receive it. It's not enough for them. The hurt is so deep, the harm is so entrenched that it's just not enough. And that is so hard to accept sometimes because it took so much out of me to say sorry. Like the sorry is
Yeah.
a gold star for me, but to the other person, they're not receiving a gold, they're receiving like earth,
Yeah.
dirt, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's funny as well because I'm just thinking about the whole exchange that I had with my son, right? Because I told him I was sorry and he actually quite immediately said it's all right. And to you it's healing, right? Because to me it's healing because I'm like, oh, I heard him say it's all right. But then I paused and checked. I'm like, is it really all right? And he kind of looked at me and he said, no, but that's a nice thing to say, isn't it?
Oh,
I know, you broke my heart. I was like, no, you can say. I was like, well, if it's still not all right, it's fine for it not to be all right.
you don't
But
have to say it's okay just to make the other person feel
yeah,
good.
and you can just say thank you. Like that's what I told him. Basically, you just say thank you. You accept the apology, but you don't have to tell them that it's all right.
Oh, that's a very important definition. You can acknowledge that the other person has apologized, but you don't have to say that their apology has mended the fence or that their apology has been healing. You can just say, thank you for apologizing. I acknowledge that you have done that. And then on your own part, you can then take the time to figure out, was that enough? Was that not enough? Because sometimes we're not ready, not because the apology wasn't enough, because we are just not ready and we need to do our own thing first,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
But it's
sometimes the
also,
hurt is so
yeah.
much. Like eventually you will probably okay. Eventually, you'll probably forgive them and accept the apology. But right then, when the emotions are so raw,
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell
yeah,
what's what. Yeah, because
yeah,
maybe eventually when you've processed it, you realize, oh, actually I needed a little bit more. But then you would have been calmer, and then you can go
yeah,
back and you can say, thank you for the apology. Maybe moving forward, this is what would help us
yeah,
to be a lot closer
yeah,
or work things out better,
yeah.
right? And you can frame it in a way that's a lot more productive rather than just going straight into like bringing all of your baggage in and then expecting that person to heal that baggage for you.
Yeah. And by saying thank you, at least you're acknowledging that you're willing for that bridge to be mended. maybe not then, but eventually.
Right. Or at least finding, if not thank you, because I think sometimes for different people it's different phrases, but at least finding a phrase that
Yeah.
works for that person to just say, okay, I just acknowledge that you've done this, and we take a pause so that
Yes.
I can take a break and just
Yeah.
process what's been happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, but then,
But
there is the flip side. Dum dum dum. What if you say you're sorry, but you don't mean it, and you do it simply to keep the peace? Because I sometimes do it, not to my son, but when I try to avoid conflict. Like, I'm very conflict averse. And so sometimes I say sorry, not because I mean it, but because I just want to be left alone. And I just want
I'm
the
just telling you,
situation.
yeah. This,
So,
I tell you, okay, I'm sorry, but then I'm not really sorry, but just leave me alone right now. Are you done?
yeah, something like that. It's like, okay, if I say I'm sorry, you're just gonna, calm down, right? But so I say that and I do that. I admit that I do that.
Well,
And
I
I
hope it comes across
struggle.
a little bit more sincere at least.
I'm a very good actor. I don't know. I don't know. But I really don't know what they take out of that, but I just feel like I have to do it.
Mm.
But then after I do it, right, regardless of how they perceive it, I struggle. What I struggle with is, how do I do that and still stay true to myself? I feel like I've betrayed myself.
Right. Because there is still your values, right? Of not wanting to hurt someone. I mean, you don't want to hurt someone and you do want them to find healing. But at the same time also you are not in a space at this moment, the headspace to have to want to to want to deal with all of that emotions and all of that, go deep dive at that moment. Because you also have to value your own protective space, right? You also need to check with yourself. And it's like, for me, I do recognize that kind of struggle sometimes. Like, how can I honor my values without also hurting someone else, but also not wanting to hurt myself, right? I mean, I don't want to set myself on fire to keep someone else warm, but I also don't want to throw someone else out into the cold, right? Just to, protect myself.
Yeah.
And it's trying to figure out which value to honor at the moment. And the hard part is, and I found this out, is we can't always honor both values at the same time. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Being true to myself and wanting to bring healing to someone else cannot always happen at the same time. And the more I try to find that perfect middle ground, the worse it gets.
I kind
Yeah.
of like that perspective though, that it's still a value, like you're still trying to bring healing to the other person and just recognizing that, yeah, sometimes you can't have your cake and eat it.
No. And that's the thing, is sometimes all I can do is just name the tension, just name it that there is that tension, accept that I have to choose, and then ride the waves of whatever choice I've made, because there is no neat formula here, right? There's no technical solution. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2 where there is a clear right answer. It's a
True.
relationship problem. And relationship problems don't have tidy solutions. You don't
Why
solve
not?
them. No, you wish, right? But you don't solve them as much as you just navigate them moment by moment.
But no, I
Yeah.
think I really like that whole, yes, I'm trying to keep the peace. Like, I'm seeing it as, oh, I'm just betraying myself to keep the peace. But if it is a situation in which I'm not protecting myself, but I'm actually bringing healing to the other person, I think I could live with that. I guess the other thing that I've learned about apologizing as well is that, yes, there is to keep the peace, etc. But is that if we want our children to readily apologize, not apologize for everything and anything, but to readily apologize when they realize that there is a need to do it, we have to do it readily to them as well, which was I guess why, even though I had that tension with apologizing to my son, I was like, well, no, I need to be able to do it more readily. And I say it for our children, but I do think, I guess, it does apply to all of our relationships as well,
Well,
especially the ones that we treasure.
it's like modeling, right? And also like do unto others, right? You kind of want to like if I would like this to happen to me, then maybe I should also do it to them first. Although I don't know, there is caveat there though. I think there's a caveat there that I've learned
Yes.
that I have to be careful that when I enact a certain action that I know is good for the relationship, I have to be very careful that I don't think, hey, there's a quid pro quo here, you know. If I'm doing this to you, you better do this for me.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes very transactional, and then I start getting resentful if it doesn't return back to me.
Well, I
So
guess
it
it's the
really
whole
needs
like,
to be.
if I say I'm sorry to you, you need to forgive me immediately.
Oh,
Yeah.
that has
It's
never
like,
turned out well for me.
yeah, I know, right? And so actually, wow, you know how I was like telling my son, if you're not ready, you can just say thank you. But what if you're the one apologizing, right? And the person just says thank you to you? It's kind of like, no, but I want you to love me now.
Yeah.
It's
It- yeah. It's a struggle, right? Yeah.
so yes, it's it's
Yeah.
it's difficult. It's difficult to draw the line, and it's hard to say what is the formula for every situation, because every situation will be different, because all of us
Mhm.
are different.
Yes, we're all different. And I struggle with knowing what parts to take responsibility for and what parts to say, no, that's theirs. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I want to take ownership where it's needed, but I also know that I've carried things that were never actually mine to carry in the first place.
Yeah. I guess this might be a good time, because what you're saying there, I have no answers for. So this might be a good time to introduce this new thing that we're trying at Life in the Grey. This podcast is an insight into the topics that Faith and I grapple with. We don't have the answers, and perhaps there is no right or wrong, no black or white. What we want to know, though, is how other people deal with living in the grey. Because as you might have gathered from the conversation that Faith and I have gotten, like, we're just getting each other's insights, and it helps. It really does help. So we're inviting you to share your insights and your thoughts with us with some of the questions we've got. What's your question, Faith?
Right. So I'm crowdsourcing perspectives for my question, and I'm really curious, right? Okay, what helps you to draw that boundary? What do you use as an internal check or a guide that helps you to know for certain sure, okay, this part, that's mine. This part, and I would love to hear what's helped you to figure this out in your own world, you know?
And on my part, I guess I've already kind of talked about it earlier, but I really want to know, how do you stay true to yourself when you say sorry, not because you mean it, but to keep the peace or to make someone else feel better? Is this something that you would even do? Leave us a comment telling us what you think. Let's continue the conversation. And if you've enjoyed our chat today, remember to hit that subscribe button. Life in the Grey is a Moms at the Table podcast, and we'll be back next month.
Hey, this is Faith.
And I'm Melody.
We have a free digital 5-day self-compassion challenge just for you.
If you like a copy, simply comment with the word LIFE now. That's LIFE.